Welcome. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Herbal Explorations, a journey through the supply chain. I would like to welcome my dear friend Blake Ebersol, the founder of Natural Pro Scientific, to discuss the importance of selecting the right herbal consultant. He is one of the most knowledgeable people that I know, specializing in product development and formulation. They also can help you with FDA compliance work, quality control, and supply chain issues. Blake, did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered a lot of it. Yep.
That's great. Well, thank you for joining me on the show. Let's dive right into it. Uh, I was doom scrolling one night on LinkedIn and came across your LinkedIn article, "Why I Offer Free Advice to Early Startups," and just made me stop and to think about the early stage prospects that I talked to as well. I think your advice/screening process is brilliant. Not only do you give them food for thought, but you can quickly ascertain if they're a viable client. A great piece of advice in your article for consultants or people that want to be consultants is offering free advice during your intake process. I think if you ask the right questions, you're not only helping them, but you're also vetting the potential of this prospective client as well. How has this process helped you reduce headaches and cut through the noise to find the right clients?
Yeah, we've been fortunate to be able to talk with so many people that are, really interested in selling their own supplements and, really want to create their own product. And you can feel their excitement. And, they've talked to manufacturers and they've done a decent amount of research. And, but what they're often not hearing is some of the realities of what you face when you're developing, natural products. And when you have, when you've seen a lot of successes as well as a lot of failures, you're bound to, have experienced some of the pain that you see other people about to do. And so it's almost like if you consider a toddler about to walk into the street, or a kid running with scissors, you're like, whoa, let's take a step back. And so, a lot of consultants, might want to, develop it as a lead and try to close the sale. But at the same time, it's, if there's something, an obvious flaw or issue with what somebody's talking about, well, I can tell that to you right now. And so, I think as a consultant, it's helped simplify my life a lot because, I'm still offering something of value to people that need it the most, and not taking up so much of my time, going back and forth and trying to educate and coach. And so, there's a few kind of lines of questioning that we go through to really, nail down and make sure, okay, have you really thought about this fully? I've heard some crazy ideas too, where it's like you want to put what in a what to do what, and
I love that, right? One of the things is that based on your experience, how many prospects don't really understand what a dietary supplement is and propose a product that is like, you're like, what do you want to do? Can you give a sample of a product that people think is a supplement but isn't? And you're like, this cannabis, I guess now it's depending on the format and whatnot. It can be marketed as a supplement, but what are some sort of far out ideas that people come up to you frequently with that you've seen? You're like, that's not a supplement. That's a alcoholic beverage or something.
That's right. And not everything can be a supplement. And first of all, you have to swallow it into your stomach first. And so you see a lot of inhalables or transdermals or, putting it on other parts of your body where, it's clearly not a supplement. It might be a medical device or a drug or a combination product. Sometimes, there's such a thing as combination products. And so these become tricky regulatory categories and it's not exactly clear to, the layperson, well, how would I classify a product? There's no flow diagram on FDA's website that that is easy for the average person to understand. And so, you almost need to have somebody help you, or at least show you, the path there. But another is thinking that an ingredient is safe or legal for that use. And so you see people want to put supplement ingredients in the foods, but the ingredient isn't generally recognized as safe as required for a food. And so, you see a lot of different, ingredients. Well, look, this ingredient is used forever in India. Well, but it doesn't mean it's legal in the U.S. And
Yeah.
then the other thing is, well, as you know, you have people say, oh, well, so and so is selling it, so and so is doing it, why can't I? And then it's like, well, if somebody else jumped off a bridge, would you do that too?
Well, you're talking my language, right? Having a 2 and 4 year old jumping off the bridge is not advisable, and it's great advice. And a perfect example is kratom, right? It's not a dietary supplement, but people sell it. It masquerades as a dietary supplement. So I think a lot of this has reality-based advice, and I also think, just because it's a combination product, it may be now your client does no longer, the resources they need monetarily isn't a 10, 20, 30, $40,000 resource, because if now is a combination product that crosses over into the drug or medical device area, that budget has to have an extra zero or even more, right? So I think a lot of it's also, as you're talking to them, you're really ascertaining, do they have what it takes to be a client? And a busy person like you and your services so demand, it's really about, hey, how do I use my time in a manner that fulfills me, and also I provide value and work on these projects that are viable, right? Nothing's worse than you start, you spend 4, 5, 6 hours, sure, you get a billet, but you just spun the wheels, and it feels to me that kind of stuff is draining. So I think it is important for consultants to vet who they want to work with as well, especially once they have a full book of business.
That's totally right. And every conversation you have is kind of fact finding, where you're trying to figure out, is it a good fit for me? And some people enjoy that coaching and teaching aspect of walking somebody through the process, and repeating yourself sometimes, and you can make a lot of money off of that sometimes. For me, I go towards what builds my energy the most, and usually that's on interesting and novel things, or solving difficult problems. So I'd rather not repeat myself a lot, but if I can help someone in 15 minutes, then I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, and I think recently I'm working on this course with Robert Craven about the zone of genius and what's above your line and what energizes you, right? And I think that's really important to understand. Hey, where do I really want to play? Where do I really want to use my time that I have? And how do I add value and create happiness for yourself? So I'd love that. And I think it's so important to find the right consultants, especially one that not only offers his or her technical expertise, but also acts as an advisor to your business to help avoid any potential pitfalls and challenges your assumptions based on their experience. Where do you land on this? Like, obviously, if you find the right consultant, they should have the right technical expertise, but not all consultants are advisors or offer advice, I guess.
Yeah, and you're correct. And just like we don't have a lot of standards in dietary supplements like you would in other regulated industries, certified, medical practitioner or certified quality advisor, even in the quality field, but we don't have a certified formulator. We don't have so people who are product developers or formulators come from different backgrounds, and some have limited knowledge in certain areas, and others, more broad based. But surely product development is an interdisciplinary activity where you have to be good at a lot of different things. Kind of like a 5-tool player. to really make sure you're covering all the bases. And then, the other point is, the whole value chain around developing supplements is centered around, okay, here, the manufacturer wants to formulate your product for you, or the marketer wants to sell your product for you. But maybe they're not always in it just for you; they're in it for themselves as well. And so it's really important to make sure you second guess every decision you make in the process of developing the product. Get other people involved to weigh in who are independent of the process. And then, don't be happy with your first version. You gotta, revise it and really poke at it and prod at it until it becomes something that's great. Because there's thousands and thousands of Me Too knockoff products out there, and even the knockoff products, okay, they have one ingredient different than something else. Is that a meaningful differentiation? When the market is so competitive and there's so many products out there, the differentiation aspect is so important. And so really making sure that your product is, really differentiated, you really understand your competition and study that. So somebody has to spend time on this stuff and not just, come up with a formula off the top of your head because you only have an hour to do it. Somebody really has to know and master this stuff, and whether it's the brand owner or consultant of the brand owner, it's really important to have that element there.
Yeah, I think as we move more into functional foods and where taste and aroma is important, uh, we're seeing all sorts of things. I was just talking to a buddy of mine who is a CEO and founder of a digital aroma company, basically ability to map aroma. And we're talking about the possibilities that could bring to our segment of the industry. And I think, like you said, like, hey, I'm not a science person, but part of it is really understanding who is the right person to do that job, right? You wouldn't want me to tell you how to formulate something. You want to find a formulator that understands that. Just because I understand herbs and the herbal industry doesn't make me qualified to be a product formulation specialist. So I think that's key, right? Is finding the right consultant. Let's switch gears quickly. One piece of advice in an article that was great is that you share the realities of what they want to do, whether it's what's really required for production, what are realistic timelines, what are cost structures based on the product or what you want to do. And how has COVID really impacted this and changed even how you understand this area of like what the realities are, right? Especially, it's such a moving ball now with COVID.
Yeah, that's a great question too, and how we used to do things in the past maybe didn't value whether an ingredient was available, immediately. For example, so accounting for ingredient lead times, it is pretty much one of the first things we're looking at, in addition to safety and regulatory. Um, but I think that there's um, when somebody says, "Oh, I want this in 2 to 3 months," you got to set the tone right then. Well, okay, whatever you're thinking, it might be 2 to 3 times that, unless all of the stars align and everything happens to be there. As you know, if you're missing one ingredient in the formula, you can't make it. So then okay, then you're going to change the formula and take out the ingredient you don't have. So yeah, and then aligning all that with the quality testing and the making sure the product is feasible and the flavoring aspect. Well, shoot, you just flavored the product perfectly, but now you can't get one of the ingredients. What do you do? Wait another 3 months. So there's a lot of encouragement towards going towards ingredients that aren't unique or proprietary. At least have a suitable backup supplier. And so I'm always encouraging people when they're doing product development, will get qualify 2 or 3 or more suitable sources for your ingredient, so that you have a plan B when if something doesn't work out. And whether that's the ingredient didn't pass spec, or you couldn't get it, or you got it in and it was the wrong thing. I mean, all of the things that can happen in the process. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is what we're seeing is longer lead times, as you alluded to, higher MOQs because everyone just needs a little bit more wiggle room, and the resources are limited. And I'll give you an example that people just don't really think about, right? It's like, hey, I want to do a functional beverage in an aluminum can. Well, good luck, right? Maybe your lead time is to market is 2 years now because there's a shortage of aluminum cans, and if you even can find the cans, there's no time on the line, right? And your small MOQ, your small order is not going to entice them. So I think these are the different realities that we have in the world that we didn't have to think about. It used to be like aluminum cans, like line
Right.
10,000, 5,000 bottles, great. Someone will take the work, but right now everyone's stretched to capacity. So I think it's an interesting situation in the supply chain. So I think that's something that I talk to people about every day. It's like, is if you grow quickly, are you going to be able to replenish your inventory in a timely fashion?
That's
Um,
right.
it's a challenge, right? Because forecasting is imperfect science to begin with.
Yeah, and especially when you're a brand owner, you don't have visibility into whether the manufacturer actually can get the cans or whether they can, and they're telling you the whole time, yeah, yeah, no problem. But then it turns out, well, they promised 6 weeks, and it turns into 10, and so there's a lot of things maybe you can do up front early on when you're designing the product that would eliminate the anticipated shortages in the future, but I know it's been so difficult for everyone, in addition to the growth of the industry and increased demand. Um, and then you see the best ingredients, well, they're sold out, or we have to wait for harvest time. Well, then you see the flood of all these really cheap ingredients that people are using because that's all they can get. And
Mhm.
so ingredient quality can definitely, I think for many ingredients has decreased, over the past year or two.
Yeah. All right. On the last note, I'm going to ask you this question right up your expertise alley. What are your top three tips for natural product development? Like, what would you leave our audience with?
I would say work as hard as you can to critique every detail and every part, and specifically focusing on product benefit, whether you can communicate that benefit simply and clearly on the label, ideally. Um, and what many people underestimate is the cost and expense of marketing. And so, if you're doing direct to consumer, through your website, or you're paying out the wazoo for Facebook ads or Instagram ads or influencers, and so you really underestimate the upfront capital that you need to start a business and start a brand. Um, you know, it's not the case anymore where you build a website and people will visit it if as they come across it. You have to really do a lot of work on that side. And then being persistent is the key. And so don't you know don't expect answers the first time that you reach out to someone. You got to follow up if you want the answers that you want. Question everything you get. And if you don't know how to question a formula or a spec sheet from a manufacturer, question the dosage used, and is there science supporting the claims. What is the science? Can we have full text of the studies? So a lot of brand owners aren't aware of, they have due diligence here as well to meet FDA requirements to make sure that their claims are truthful and not misleading. And so really putting on your regulatory hat, and don't just assign your regulatory function to your manufacturer. No, that's also on the brand owner as well.
Yeah. And I love your top three tips. They're great. One last thing I want to add to it is that if you're a direct to consumer customer company and that's your play, I really would recommend that you find a consultant like Blake that understands the intricacies of D2C, because not only is your product formulation very important, but your delivery format that fits within the confines that of D2C. Because if you're off a quarter inch, your shipping costs and fulfillment costs could be, you know, 20, 30, 40% more than if it was shorter by a quarter inch or centimeter even. Like it's not even that much. So I think it's really understanding how you can get what you want, the product you want delivered in that exacting dimensions of your shipment. Blake, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And look forward to catching up with you, hopefully at Expo. And we're looking forward to having you on as a guest in the future as well.
Yeah, it was great. Had a lot of fun, Wilson. And yeah, look forward to seeing you in Anaheim then. Thanks a lot.